forget.
I tell you, gentlemen, science has agreed that unless something is done and done quickly, man, as the dominant species of life on Earth, will be extinct.
No matter what chronic disease you look at, we've seen them rise from being very uncommon or extremely rare even or unknown.
We have food guidelines from the United States government. We have all of these things telling us how to eat, how to live our lives, how to exercise, and our health has done nothing but get worse.
What we're being told to eat is at the heart of our problem.
In a world where memories fade and minds wander, there's a disease that has puzzled scientists and doctors for over a century.
Alzheimer's disease is the #1 neurological disease, a devastating disorder that has given us insight into the functioning of even the highest areas of the human brain. And its impact is absolutely devastating on many levels.
But what if I told you that what we know about this disease might be all wrong? Buckle up, because we're about to uncover the untold story of Alzheimer's disease. Our story begins in the early 1900s with a curious case that would change everything. But was this disease truly what we thought it was? Stay tuned as we unravel the secrets hidden in the past.
Alzheimer's now affects 40 million people worldwide, but by 2050, it will affect 150 million people, which, by the way, will include many of you.
Imagine you're living in the early 1900s. A 51-year-old woman named Auguste Dater begins to forget things, lose her way, and behave erratically. Her doctor, Alois Alzheimer, is puzzled. He investigates, and after her death in 1906, Alzheimer examines her brain, discovering unusual clumps and tangles that don't seem to belong.
The consequences of brain damage tell us a lot about the normal functioning of the brain. This is especially true of Alzheimer's disease.
From this discovery, a new disease is born, now known as Alzheimer's disease. But here's the twist. Alzheimer never fully understood why this was happening. Fast forward to 1979, decades later, and suddenly, this disease is recognized as a global health crisis. Why did Alzheimer's disease suddenly get so much attention? And why did it take so long to identify as something separate? Were we misled? Or was there something more sinister happening?
Alzheimer's disease is named for the individual who first described it, Alois Alzheimer, 51-year-old woman who had massive inability to speak language. She couldn't relate to people. She couldn't remember who she was, and actually looked up at Alzheimer and said, I have lost myself. And that has come to be the thing that most characterizes this terrible disorder.
Why did this disease suddenly appear and get so much attention in 1979? Could it be that the invention of Alzheimer's disease wasn't just a coincidence? And is it possible that there's something darker behind this diagnosis? Some experts are starting to believe that Alzheimer's disease, as we know it today, may not be a naturally occurring disease at all. In fact, some are even calling it a physician-caused disease. Could it be that the rise of Alzheimer's is linked to things we've been exposed to over the years, whether through our diet, environmental factors, or even medications prescribed in earlier decades? It's almost as if this disease wasn't simply discovered, but perhaps fabricated as a way to explain a new set of symptoms that were emerging as people's health started deteriorating. Could we have been conditioned to think of Alzheimer's as a mystery, when in reality, it might have been a created health problem?
There are many people who get Alzheimer's in their 70s, 80s, and beyond, and there's no knowledge that anyone else had it. We think that either that means it's a complex genetic trait, and or there's an environmental factor that led that person to have Alzheimer's without a family history.
The real question here is, why has Alzheimer's become so prevalent in the past century? Alzheimer's disease was virtually unheard of before the early 1900s, and yet now it's considered a global epidemic. This shift raises some serious questions. Could it be linked to modern living, including what we eat, how we live, or even pharmaceutical interventions? And just like in the best mystery movies, the true story behind Alzheimer's is full of twists, unanswered questions, and hidden agendas. Could it be that what we're told about this disease is just the beginning of a much bigger, untold story? Fast forward to the 1980s, when scientists begin experimenting with animals, specifically cows. You might be thinking, cows? How do they fit into this story? Well, here's where it gets interesting. These animals, particularly older cows, start showing symptoms remarkably similar to Alzheimer's disease. But instead of accepting this as an inevitable reality, researchers decided to change one thing: their diet. Suddenly, the cow's diet was transformed. They removed seed oils, vegetable oils, and corn oils, the very oils we've been told are healthy for humans, and replaced them with more natural fats. But that's not all. The cows were also given large doses of vitamin E and selenium, two powerful nutrients known for their antioxidant properties.
The role of vitamin E and selenium supplements have been studied more substantially. Due to their antioxidant properties, it was long thought that these molecules could prevent Alzheimer's disease.
Hold on. If a simple change in diet, removing certain oils and introducing powerful vitamins, could cure Alzheimer's-like symptoms in cows, why haven't we tried these same changes on humans? Could this be the missing key to unlocking the cure for Alzheimer's? And if so, why hasn't anyone told us? Here's where things take a dark turn. After changing the cow's diet and adding these nutrients, the symptoms of Alzheimer's disappeared. Gone. They no longer showed signs of memory loss or cognitive decline. It was like a reset button for their brains. If it worked for animals, could it work for humans too? But here's the catch. While this discovery happened decades ago, the mainstream medical community hasn't really focused on these results. Why? Was this discovery ignored? Could the answer to Alzheimer's have been sitting right in front of us all along, but we were never told? The research on animals showed us that diet, particularly the removal of seed oils and the introduction of key nutrients, could have had a huge impact on reducing Alzheimer's symptoms. Yet even though this was successful with cows, we didn't see any real efforts to apply these findings to human treatment. So, why haven't we used this knowledge? Could it be that we're being kept in the dark about the simple solution to a disease that affects millions of people? The answers are out there, but are we too distracted by what we've been told to see what's actually working? Let's talk about something that's been shoved down our throats for decades: the diet shift. We've all been told that red meat and eggs are bad for us, right? Cut down on the fat, avoid the meat, eat more vegetables, they say. But here's where it gets really interesting. As we followed this new dietary advice, we started seeing something strange. Alzheimer's disease and autoimmune diseases started spiking. But why? Wasn't this supposed to be the healthier choice? Here's the kicker. The moment we started eating less red meat, less fat, and more grains, more vegetables, and even fructose sugar, yes, the same stuff they add to processed foods, we saw higher rates of diseases like Alzheimer's, arthritis, and even autoimmune conditions like never before. So how did this happen? Was the new diet really better for us? Or was it just another dangerous experiment? Could it be that we've been lied to about what's actually healthy? Why are the rates of Alzheimer's, autoimmune diseases, and obesity climbing, even though we're following the government's dietary guidelines? Could there be something hidden behind this sudden push to change our eating habits? Think about it. When did these dietary changes start? The push to cut fat, eat more grains, and reduce red meat has been going on for decades. But it really kicked into high gear in the 1970s and 1980s. And that's also when we started seeing a rise in diseases like heart disease, diabetes, and Alzheimer's. Coincidence? Or could it be that there's something more sinister going on? Maybe the real question we should be asking is, who benefits from these diet shifts? Could it be that the food industry, along with Big Pharma, has a financial interest in us staying sick. After all, they can't make money from healthy people. But sick people, that's where the real profits are.
I think healthcare prices are inelastic. I could have raised it higher and made more profits for our shareholders.
Research now shows that diets high in fructose, processed oils, and refined grains have been shown to increase inflammation and promote diseases like Alzheimer's. But interestingly, a higher fat red meat diet with plenty of healthy nutrients doesn't seem to have the same harmful effects. In fact, it could be helping to reverse or prevent these diseases. So why are we still pushing the idea that low-fat and grain-heavy diets are healthy, when evidence keeps stacking up that real, whole foods, including red meat, are much better for us? What if it's not about our health at all? What if it's about something else entirely? The plot thickens. Now, here's where things really start to get juicy. We've talked about diet changes and the rise of diseases, but let's dive deeper into the money trail. Who's actually benefiting from the widespread health problems like Alzheimer's, heart disease, and autoimmune conditions? It's not the healthy people. They don't need medications or constant treatments. No, the people making the money are the pharmaceutical companies, the food industry, and those pushing unhealthy processed foods on us. Let's break it down. We've been told to eat more grains, more vegetables, and avoid red meat and fat. What happens next? More people get sick. Heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, the list goes on. But who profits? The pharmaceutical companies, of course. They're the ones selling the medications that treat these diseases. Could it be that we've been fed false information about healthy eating to keep us sick? Is it possible that the industries pushing these diets are more concerned with their bottom line than with our health? What if the whole health crisis is just a well-planned scheme to get us hooked on medication and processed foods? Think about it. If we were all healthy, what would happen to the pharmaceutical industry? What would happen to the food industry that sells us sugar-laden snacks and processed foods? If we all ate whole, nutritious foods like red meat, eggs, and vegetables that promote health, there would be fewer people needing prescription drugs, fewer people buying processed foods, and fewer people getting sick. And if fewer people were sick, that means less profit. Pharmaceutical companies make billions of dollars selling medications to treat chronic diseases like Alzheimer's, heart disease, and diabetes. But what if we could avoid those diseases entirely with the right diet and lifestyle? What if the solution wasn't to sell more pills, but to teach people how to eat and live in ways that prevent these conditions? Could it be that they're not interested in the cure because they're more focused on the profits?
I know how to diagnose her, I know how to write the prescriptions, I know how to do the surgery, but what I kind of realized in that moment was like, I have no idea why this patient's actually sick. She has so many other health issues, prediabetes, arthritis, she's got some brain fog, she's got obesity, and she's got this sinus issue. And in my training, I was never ever taught to look at the whole patient. I was only taught how to, do the surgery and then bill for it.
So what if all this health advice isn't about our well-being at all? What if it's really about making sure we stay sick, stay in need of medications, and keep lining the pockets of the food and pharma industries? The more we eat processed foods and take medications, the more money they make. It's almost like a business scheme designed to keep us unhealthy. So after everything we've uncovered, the diet shifts, the hidden motives, the rise in diseases, what's the real solution? It's simple. The key to preventing diseases like Alzheimer's, heart disease, and even autoimmune disorders lies in one powerful combination: whole foods and regular exercise. Imagine a world where we focus on real, nutrient-dense foods: red meat, eggs, healthy fats, and vegetables, instead of processed junk that causes harm. Add in regular movement, whether it's walking, lifting weights, or just staying active every day, and you've got the ultimate defense against the diseases that have been plaguing us for decades. But here's the truth. This solution has been right under our noses all along. So why are we still chasing pills, diets, and quick fixes instead of returning to the basics of real health? Eat right, stay active, and and you'll have the power to prevent countless diseases before they even start. The choice is ours, and it's time to take control of our health.